Humanity Party's agenda is to help usher in a new world of peace and equality. Known as Thump, we are a group of people who have formed the first of its kind worldwide political party that represents those who have no political representation. The Humanity Party represents the least among us, the tired, the homeless, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, those who have no voice and are treated as a wretched refuse by their current governments. Without the proper political movement and without gaining the support of the majority people upon earth is not possible. If we have the ability to imagine a perfect world, then like everything else we have ever imagined as human beings, we have the power to achieve it. The Humanity Party's political agenda is an attempt to achieve world peace and establish a new order of law and equality upon earth. Peace will never happen unless a new form of government is established. Not a radical form of government or one with an anarchist agenda, but a government based on what has worked and what has not worked for us in the past in achieving this desired peace. In a world of peace and equality, what would we imagine the social interactions between us would be? Would we not imagine a peaceful society that supports the pursuit of individual happiness, no matter what that pursuit might be, according to the perceptions and unique desires of each individual? Thump's political platform presents solutions that protect each person's individuality and right, and each soul pursuit of self-worth and happiness, no matter what that might be, as long as that individual pursuit does not impede another in the pursuit of the same. This is the overall agenda of the Humanity Party. We all want peace, world peace. We do not like to see other people or even animals suffering, nor are we comfortable with the destruction of the plants and natural environs that were here long before we were. But unlike plants and animals, we are aware of our intelligence and dominion over nature, and we possess an innate desire to care and be concerned about other life forms outside of the human race. But this concern is dependent upon our own basic necessities for life being met first. Thump's solutions will provide for the basic necessities of human life so that a person is not forced to exploit the balance of the laws of nature. For example, the impoverished people of some African states, as long as they are forced to acquire money to sustain their own lives, will continue to threaten the existence of endangered species when the death of these animals provides money for the people to buy what they need to live. If we can first solve poverty in the struggle to survive, we can then concentrate our efforts on living in a symbiotic relationship with the rest of the natural world. People who have all of their needs provided for are generally those who are more concerned about the natural environs that support nature. They have the time to worry about these things and donate this time and their resources to environmental issues. But the masses do not have the time nor the money to worry about anything else but day-to-day survival. The Humanity Party supports the protection of the natural world in support of human existence. There was a time in Earth's history when there existed groups of indigenous humans who found that working peacefully together and with the established laws of nature was best for their survival. What happened to us? Why is there no longer peace on Earth or a concerted effort to live in harmony with nature? The answer? Humans are emotionally nothing like other animals. Humans seek for individual worth and happiness. A human infant cannot survive in the natural world alone. It cannot care for or protect itself. Humans don't have fur to protect us from the cold. We do not have natural camouflage to hide us in time of danger. We have no pungent smell to ward off predators, and no overwhelming natural strength possessed by adult protectors. This one fact seems to disprove a theory developed among the wise ones, which we call ourselves. Darwin's theory of evolution and the concept of survival of the fittest. If this theory were true, then there is no way humans could have survived upon Earth as long as we have. The laws of nature and survival of the fittest would have ended their existence long ago. How is it then that we have been able to survive for thousands of years with these physical disadvantages? There are three simple differences that set the human species apart from the rest of the animal kingdom: self-awareness, the pursuit of individual worth, and the ability to reason. None of these characteristics simply evolved. Some people believe in a pre-human, quote-unquote, caveman who was able to evolve into the humans that we are today. This defies logic and reason because we don't see any other species evolving into more advanced life forms. We see ourselves as wise ones, Homo sapiens, among all creations of the earth. This is because we recognize our unique abilities and intelligence that allows us to rule and have dominion over other creatures that live by instinctual and natural law alone. Over time, as more humans inhabited the earth and became more connected with each other, the resources needed to provide individual self-worth and happiness became diluted by the number of people. This led to the protection of individual needs over any concern for the whole of humanity. As humans began to account for and protect their self-interests, the support of these interests depended on Earth's limited resources. As a result, we began to develop spoken and written languages. These languages eventually separated us into families, communities, cities, states, and nations. Then, we developed the imaginary borderlines that followed with a reaction of human emotion. The emotional borders that separate us were responsible for the development of the cultures that support and protect the individual pursuit of self-worth and happiness. But the cultures and nations of the world, although human, do not see each other as equals. Each views its own existence as the most important and relevant to life upon earth. Religions were spawned from these views. Thus, despite their shared humanity, wars began among us in the protection of self-worth and the resources that we need to live. Self-awareness can appropriately be called selfishness. Humans are the only purely selfish creatures in nature. After their basic needs of food and sex are met, their selfishness motivates them and allows them to eat for pleasure, have sex for pleasure, and further establish their individuality from the rest of the whole of humanity. Selfishness is a natural human response to a human's existence. Recognizing the importance of the human emotions associated with selfishness allows for a more positive understanding and acceptance of it rather than a negative one. Our individuality is what brings purpose to our existence on earth. When this is compromised, there is no longer balance. We recognize this emotional balance and imbalance as happiness and unhappiness, respectively. These emotions are felt when we receive or do not receive recognition for our uniqueness. We need to feel acknowledged, separate from the whole, or the very purpose of individual existence is breached. This leads to unhappiness. Acquiring self-worth is a constant emotional struggle in life, and we are continually striving to alleviate this discomfort. Individuality needs to be protected above all other human needs. Because if everyone did the same thing and acted the same way as other plants and animals do, there would be no individuality and no experience of happiness as we experience it as human beings. Since the primary human goal, the reason why we exist, is to be recognized and valued as individuals, which has nothing to do with the whole of humanity, whatever or whoever interferes with reaching this goal becomes a detriment to our happiness, to our balance. War, economic disparity, jealousy, envy, strife, persecutions, and other negative human responses are direct results of the human response to this interference. To further maintain our individuality, our selfishness, we place values on invented and imagined things. Material possessions become a distinction of class and prestige. Knowledge, not intelligence, sets one individual apart from another. A college degree or employment experience that none other has achieved helps us maintain a sense of worth and individuality. The color and style of hair, the jewelry adorning the body, and other personalized choices support our individuality against the whole. To counter these negative responses, balance must be restored among us. The Humanity Party's solutions support and protect individuality, which can then lead to the end of strife and the beginning of world peace. None of us asked to exist. Others made that choice for us and introduced us into their world. As little children, we had no power to make decisions for ourselves, nor could we understand or do anything about the world into which we were introduced. We knew nothing about nations, borders, religions, politics, or opinions, and we did not have to worry about what the adults had invented or whether or not others accepted us. We lived naturally, emotionally independent of others, including of our parents. We had a child's imagination, a child's curiosity, and most important, a child's perception of life. As we grew, many of us began to protest the adult way of life. We missed our childlike desires, but were told to grow up. That's just the way things are. We were sent to their schools that taught and reinforced their perception of life and their way of doing things. Their way of doing things has not led to peace on earth. Instead of seeing a tree as a thing of beauty that was a part of earth to share with our friends, to climb, or to enjoy its shade, adults created mathematical equations to scientifically define what a tree is, where it came from, why it exists, and how it was to be used. This is called science, and is the accepted form of value-based learning that increases self-worth. The more complex our mathematical and scientific definitions have become, the more we are impressed with each other and our invented knowledge. Meanwhile, children just want to climb the tree. Soon adults created uses for the tree that had nothing to do with enjoying it in its natural state. Adults created rules and laws that defined how the tree was to be used, and these rules didn't include climbing or sitting under it as we did as little children. There were some who began to worship the tree as if it were a god. We were forced to accept the adult way, their way, regardless of how we felt about it. To impress the adults and be accepted by them, we learned their ways, accepted their gods, and applied their values to ourselves. We learned their mathematics, we learned their sciences, and we learned their ways of worship. We learned from them that when other grown-up children didn't agree with their learning, the others were wrong and shouldn't be allowed to have any part of the tree. Instead of remaining a tree of life and happiness, the tree became a tree of knowledge of good and evil. As little children, we partook of the fruit of the tree of our choosing that was good to our taste, until adults convinced us to partake of the tree that grew evil fruit that is bitter to the taste. Adults justified this by telling us, deceiving us as children, to believe that that is how they gained their knowledge and value and became an adult. Although most of our memorable and peaceful moments of life upon earth were those that we experienced as little children, if we want to be valued in this world, we must act like an adult. Yet adults are unhappy and children are happy. The adult way of doing things simply does not make any sense. There is a big difference between knowledge and intelligence. Knowledge is what we have learned throughout our life that turned us into adults. Intelligence is our ability to reason, which we were born with and something that we all share in common. It is what makes us uniquely human. It is our humanity. We see this innate intelligence in children, in their ability to be quick to forgive, to play together, and to act individually and selfishly without consciously impeding the ability of another child to act the same. We then became adults, not necessarily by aging, but from experience. This experience is knowledge. Knowledge is our human experience and how each individual remembers it. Every perception of each experience is different and is affected by the language and philosophies to which we were exposed as little children. But as little children, we did not have a lot of knowledge, but we had intelligence. Intelligence makes us uniquely human, but allows and supports us in treating each other with equality. Knowledge can and has destroyed our intelligence. Our shared original inherited humanity is greatly affected by the knowledge we have accumulated in our experiences as adults. Children do not cause wars, adults do. Our desire to support and protect our individuality is called ego. It is something we are born with, and no other life form deals with it like we do. Little children protect their egos differently than adults. Egos in adults have caused division. Little children do not divide themselves, but have an innate desire to continue to play with each other regardless of childlike differences. We have lost our intelligence to the philosophies of men, which include ideologies, traditions, religions, judgments, and prejudices. We have been taught, we have acquired the knowledge, how to think and what to think. In spite of our shared intelligence, this knowledge feeds our egos as it supports our desire to be accepted. Common sense is perceived as a positive adult characteristic. But what adults sense in common is vastly different than what we as little children sensed. Well did the renowned German physicist Albert Einstein write, attributed to him, quote, "Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. Our inequality upon this earth is directly associated with our egos. The economic classes that create poverty are associated with our egos. Patriotism is a product of our egos. Every aspect of argument, discord, and war among us can be traced to our egos, usually to men's egos. In order to create again what we could only accomplish as little children, we must return to becoming like little children. We must first dissolve the emotional borders that divide us. Once united emotionally, we will have the desire and power to dissolve the physical borders that cause us to kill each other in order to protect and maintain these boundaries. The Humanity Party will accomplish this by reintroducing us to our shared intelligence. No child holds sovereignty over another. Properly defined, sovereignty means the quality or state of having rightful, independent, and supreme power or authority in governing the people of a state or community, unquote. Knowledge has convinced us that sovereignty is more important than unity and peace. Pure intelligence questions how any sovereign group of people can unite with another sovereign group. A group of people that thinks its ways and laws are right will never cooperate with another group of people that, just as strongly, believes that its own are. Each group will fight for its position and opinions. Sovereignty is responsible for every war of bloodshed and terror that has ever afflicted humankind. The Humanity Party proposes that sovereignty must end. The only sovereignty that should exist upon earth is that of the individual and one's right to exist and pursue happiness according to one's desire for happiness, whatever that might be, as long as the pursuit does not negatively affect the individual sovereignty of another. Unity, when experienced, can promote peace, cooperation, and humane and equal laws. Human beings must unite under one world government and constitution, giving their voice and power to one government and one authority. But what kind of worldwide constitution and government should this be? Forming a new government that unifies and benefits all equally must be based on our innate intelligence, not on our knowledge. Our knowledge has failed to produce the peace and equality that we seek for upon this earth. We must first imagine that it can be done, then form it on qualities that we shared as little children. The only way to peace on earth is to become again like a little child in the way that we perceive and deal with each other. If we were to put a child from each nation on the same playground, we would witness a phenomenal human social interaction that we forgot was possible. Watching little children interact with each other would bring tears to our eyes as we realize how far we have strayed from our shared humanity. We would see little children of all cultures, of all religions, of all backgrounds, speaking all kinds of different languages, playing together without dialogue or worrying about any rules that adults have posted on the playground. We would witness childlike imagination, born of their shared humanity. The Humanity Party is the party of the children, regardless of their age. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. We simply need to look at Earth as the ultimate human playground upon which children play with each other without language, ideologies, traditions, religions, judgments, or prejudices. We must form a united government that protects the way that we play with each other and share the same playground. Our ability to use our imagination like we did when we were children has been stifled by the knowledge that we have been forced to value and accept. We cannot achieve world peace unless we can imagine it. Too many adults have been convinced that world peace is not possible, and according to their experience, their knowledge, it never will be. But the words of a popular song transcend the philosophies of men mingled with their writings, with their scripture, and their scientific publications, and has the power to cause the listener to feel strong emotions of childlike unity. The song is Imagine by John Lennon. The Humanity Party's agenda is to help usher in a new world of peace and equality. Known as STUMP, we are a group of people who have formed a first-of-its-kind worldwide political party that represents those who have no political representation. The Humanity Party represents the least among us, the tired, the homeless, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, those who have no voice and are treated as a wretched refuse by their current governments. Without the proper political movement and without gaining the support of the majority people upon earth is not possible. If we have the ability to imagine a perfect world, then like everything else we have ever imagined as human beings, we have the power to achieve it. The Humanity Party's political agenda is an attempt to achieve world peace and establish a new order of law and equality upon earth. Peace will never happen unless a new form of government is established. Not a radical form of government or one with an anarchist agenda, but a government based on what has worked and what has not worked for us in the past in achieving this desired peace. In a world of peace and equality, what would we imagine the social interactions between us would be? Would we not imagine a peaceful society that supports the pursuit of individual happiness, no matter what that pursuit might be, according to the perceptions and unique desires of each individual? THUMP's political platform presents solutions that protect each person's individuality and right, and each soul pursuit of self-worth and happiness, no matter what that might be, as long as that individual pursuit does not impede another in the pursuit of the same. This is the overall agenda of the Humanity Party. We all want peace, world peace. We do not like to see other people or even animals suffering, nor are we comfortable with the destruction of the plants and natural environs that were here long before we were. But unlike plants and animals, we are aware of our intelligence and dominion over nature, and we possess an innate desire to care and be concerned about other life forms outside of the human race. But this concern is dependent upon our own basic necessities for life being met first. THUMP's solutions will provide for the basic necessities of human life so that a person is not forced to exploit the balance of the laws of nature. For example, the impoverished people of some African states, as long as they are forced to acquire money to sustain their own lives, will continue to threaten the existence of endangered species. The Humanity Party proposes that upon applying intelligence, that which glorifies us above all other life forms, we can create world peace. But first, we must devalue and obtain the correct perspective of those things that we have been convinced are of worth to us, the things that separate and divide us and cause the imbalance. The things that we have learned and accepted as valuable knowledge, those things that are taught to us in the schools and universities throughout the world, have done nothing but divide us further. This political platform of the World Humanity Party will help us return to our innate childlike intelligence by explaining what no accredited education can teach us. Quote, education, true intelligence, is what remains when one has forgotten all that one has learned in school, unquote. There is a way to world peace. We must become, again, as a little child.
And so the General Assembly, acting in mandate, has designated the year 1979 as the International Year of the Child, a year devoted to the proposition that all children of this, our planet, have the inalienable right to freedom from nutritional deprivation, to equal opportunity in the disbursement of educative opportunities, and to the freedom from inhumane pre-adult labor requisites. This is the year 1979, International Year of the Child. This should be written for children. I don't understand this, do you? I mean, I gotta tell you, somebody reading this in English here, they could break a tooth.